It's the Skircoat stand. It used to be the home end. It's the most historic part of the Shea Stadium, and it's an end that brings so much nostalgia with it from, dare I say, the older end of the A.F.C. Halifax Town supporters range. It's an end that I began watching Halifax Town in when it was terraced at this particular section here nearest to me, but however further on the left we've always had seats there. And anyway, I used to sit on what was the wall at the front here along with other youngsters, and the terracing behind was exactly like the south stand. It had you know, the barriers you could lean on. I don't believe the sections in between the seats have changed. It still had sections where you could go up. You still entered at the top, and it, as I say, it'll hold an extreme amount of special memories for many a town supporter, I'm sure. But as I pan round here, the last 10 years with the completion of this stand, the East stand, the Skircoat stand has been, at least to home fans, been made redundant. Of course, it has housed away supporters as and when it's been needed. We had Chorley in there in the playoff final, we've had Bradford City in there, Wrexham, I think Luton were given these seats, we've had Stockport County in here. I'm sure there's many more, but I can't just off the top of my head think what they are. And the reason I made this video was off the back of the Shaycast episode 3, in which Johnny Maynell, club historian, mentioned Paddy's Tuck Shop. Now, for a good section of supporters, one, they won't have any clue that who Paddy Roach is, and to be honest, I almost include myself in that. More later, I know him as the main feature of this video is. I knew him for his sweet shop, which is in the distance over there. So I'm just going to stop the recording while I make my way up there, so you don't have to listen to me running out of breath as I make my way up those steps. It'll prove how unfit I am, but I'll see you up there in the old press box. So here we are. This was the old press bench for the football club. So when we got back into the Football League, this was certainly the press bench where we'd have hosted BBC Radio Leeds. It would have hosted Dave Fletcher of the Halifax Evening Courier, as it were. And as I said earlier, this was always seated, and now due to just misuse, all the seats are dusty and a bit mucky. But just for some that will have never seen this view, I'd be tempted to say that we have many younger supporters now who've never known this view of the Shea even. I mean, this is me stood up in the aisle. Obviously, if we had a steward down there, they'd be telling me to come over here, like so. So yeah, this is the view you get from almost the top of the Skircoat stand. Obviously, you've got the, I want to say the partitions, you've got the stanchions in the way of your view, but for many that'd be another massive dose of nostalgia for some. So just have a bit of a pan round so everyone can see what's going on in here. As I can say, people used to of course stand on this back row. Even when it was seating, actually, people used to stand here as I'm doing, and this would have been the view they got. I mean, it doesn't obscure the pitch. For some reason I always had it in my head, as I remembered, that the stand, the bottom of the roof obscured part of the pitch, but it quite clearly doesn't. Where that mat is on the pitch there, that I'm sure Oz laid, is where your goal towards the south stand would be. And yeah, it's not a bad view. I certainly remember it being a lot worse, but what a nostalgia trip. I'd absolutely love to see a day where we have to open this again, because we've got that many home supporters that we've filled the other two ends, and we have to actually put home supporters in here. And as I alluded to earlier in the video, because of the shape of the roof, it's sort of like an upside down V shape. You used to be able to create a fantastic atmosphere in here, and it's why, although because they bring large numbers, it's why away support sounds so good when they're in the Skircoat. It's due to the acoustics. of the stand. But the main reason I'm here is to see Paddy Roach's tuck shop, or roughly where Paddy Roach's tuck shop used to be. So as I pan round, it's this little box here. So it must still be used for storage due to this small door being fitted, and obviously back in the day that would have been how you'd have got in and out of Paddy Roach's tuck shop. So we'll just go around to it. More of this to come, walking up and down here. So we'll just pan round. So Paddy's shop is now, or was, where this CCTV warning is. You may just be able to see here where the brickwork is slightly different to the rest of the stand. There's a little bit of where they've re-cemented it, but it used to be here. And for some reason, again, I can remember it being a lot smaller. I don't remember it being so long. But it was, I seem to remember it just being a hatch, actually. So you'd sort of have his hatch here, you know, and he'd have his counter just sort of at the front, and he'd sell like sweets and such. We had, you know, lollies, crisps, pop, with all the money going towards the footballing community and the youth team. Actually, now I've looked at the brickwork, it may have actually been this little section here, though that bit there looks as if it's been redone. But as I'm saying redone, you're talking about this has been gone almost 20 years. It's been reboarded up. So of course, back in those days you could also smoke in the Skircoat stand. The smoking laws have changed since then, so this is the coming into the press box from the other exit. I would sit down, but the chairs are quite quite dirty due to obviously all the media side moving into the east stand. I'll try and zoom my camera in just so you can see where it is. It's there. That's the new press. Well, say new, you know, it's 10 years old, but that is now the current press bench. And this is what used to be the old press bench, so the old sort of phone sockets, power switches, bits and pieces. But this, I really like this. Nice little piece of nostalgia. This was where the visually impaired live commentary scheme was set up by the Nationwide Building Society. And the sponsorship of Nationwide Building Society of Halifax is certainly a story for another day. So I'm going to walk up to another feature of the Skircoat stand. Some would even argue the very creme de la creme of this stand. And I'll make my way over there right now. Carry on filming. So of course we're following the signs for the exit. Of course, this brings me back, as it always will do I suppose, for somebody my age, to the 97-98 season, and walking along here, you know, when we'd won many a game down the Shay, we remained unbeaten all season that particular year. And what's this now? This used to just be a wall, so I'm just going to look at what they've erected here. This is interesting. This is something I've never actually seen. I know that obviously as the game got later on in the day, some people would vacate the Skircoat stand. They wouldn't have this jungle view, shall we say, and they used to stand by this wall and sort of watch the closing ebbs of the game. It's not somewhere I've spent many games, though we of course lost many, but this is, well, it looks a bit worn now, but to me this is new. So for that reason, I suppose, to save people leaning on the wall, I suppose health and safety may be dictated that we erect this particular barrier to stand along. But yeah, we'd have just sort of walked up here. The refreshment van's actually still there, so I guess that gets used as and when it's needed. If they have people in the north stand, I assume they would come through that gate there to use that. But we've now arrived at the absolute pinnacle, the pinnacle of the Skircoat stand. It's of course the infamous toilets. And let me go in. Hopefully nobody's using the facilities or this video will end. So we're going in. Look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, the Skircoat bogs. Absolutely brilliant. The last supporters to complain about this were Leyton Orient last year. 21 quid for this. Gosh, I'd pay 30. Absolutely brilliant. Obviously quite dark down there. Look at that. An old Blue Square sponsorship. That must be, what, 10, 12 years old? Memories. And to think that away supporters don't appreciate that. Fantastic. Gosh. So obviously, just as a side point, these would have been the turnstiles that you would have entered the Skircoat stand via. I believe they still are, actually. I'm saying was, they still are. Of course, they'd open these doors and you'd come in, and then at full time these gates would be open and you'd be able to go out into what is the car park just up there. But there's a very famous picture of when we played Hereford in May 1993, and people literally queued up that car park to get in at every available gate. Again, the less said about that the better, but there were 8,000 at this game, at that particular game, and we just couldn't get over the line. If we had done, we'd have still been relegated anyway, because Northampton came from 2 goals down to win 3-2, so it rendered our our result mute anyway. So yeah, this was the tour of the Skircoat stand. Just walking back down. You can film it from in here, but when I used to come, when I went in the Skircoat, I'd have probably come in at this first entrance and gone all the way down to the bottom, as I said, to sit on the wall down there. But I do miss the Skircoat stand. It was as I've said, it was the end that I always knew was the home end, and many older supporters than me will be able to tell you more stories about it, let me tell you that. But when you're competing with that across, and 5 million got spent on it, you know, decisions really being made to make this vacant. But as I've said, I pray and I hope for the day where we'll once more see home supporters in here. Hopefully this season. You know, we've had a fairly decent start, and let's just hope we can carry on. We're only 1 point off the top, even though we've already lost 7 games this year, but at time of recording we've won the most games also. So yeah, it'd be lovely to see supporters in here once more. A couple of chairs there, obviously been used quite a lot. But yeah, so I mean, you can imagine scoring a goal here when this would have been the home end. The north stand in general, when it was terracing, won't have been there. That would have just been that was vacant, really, a bit like what the Skircoat is now, actually. But I mean, imagine being a kid down here, sat on this wall, what is now obviously just a barrier. Just walk all over these. This were a wall, and you'd have players, you know, I'm speaking from my own perspective, you know what I mean, Jeff Horsfield would score a goal here, he'd be holding the ball up in this corner pretending to smoke a cigarette or a cigar, and somebody would try and take him out, and let's just say 99 times out of 100 they were unsuccessful. You know, I've seen Jamie Patterson score at this end and run to this end, absolutely packed to the rafters. We'd sold out that day. We sold 4,000 tickets for that game. The game, you have to remember, the East Stand weren't as big as that in the day. I wouldn't even know what the numbers it held, maybe 500. It was at the very least half the size of that. And as I say, I saw Jamie Patterson round a goalie and slot it in here and come straight towards me. If I had my tripod with me and more guts than what I've got today, I may have reenacted it on the pitch, including the shirt swinging. But again, a bit like some of the tales that have been told in this video. That might be a video for another day. Just while we're here, obviously this is the north stand, it's not used that often. You can just see the gate there where you would come into the north stand, come up some steps, which anyone who exits the Shay that way on a match day will have seen. And when this was the home end, you can't see it because of the trees, but we did see it earlier at the fast food, the refreshment bar. There was a way into the north stand just sort of up here. In fact, I'll walk up the north stand and show you. We had this built, of course, for the promotion winning season of 97-98 to fulfil certain guidelines and attendance capacity numbers to be able to compete in the Football League, and I've got that particular video exists online on my channel. The Football League can confirm that Halifax Town and all associated with something like parties have fulfilled all the necessary criteria to gain entry into the Football League. Then, should Halifax Town gain promotion, they will be promoted into Division 3 for next season. I mean, to be honest, the North Stand, look at this. Ivy. A little bit of ivy growing into the ground. Obviously shows how often it's used. But, I mean, there's not much more to say about the North Stand other than there's this big section up here. Obviously where you'd enter through there. And it's basically like the South Stand. But this is a more interesting view because I don't know if it's slightly bigger actually. And as Shaymen stats, I should really know that, but I believe the capacity of both is 2,500. Skircoat to stand is 2,500, and the east stand holds 3,500. So the last time I was in here was in 2013 for another sporting event at the football ground. It was a thoroughly enjoyable day actually. I think I was stood here, had a pint of bitter just there, and I watched the game from about here. So yeah, a couple more places that aren't really used on a match day. We saw Hartlepool United in this section just past the green. The first home game of the season, as you can see, there's fencing up to stop you, coming through to the other section. So I guess this will be where my journey as a North Stand kind of ends, but Hartlepool are in there and in that section there. And also, just as a quick anecdote, I think it's where this wood chip board is actually. Somewhere around here. I once saw a man sneak in between this car park and the little army barracks. Just there, there's a little bit of green that leads up to the ground, and he jumped. They didn't have this green metal fence, and he jumped this little stone fence and come and watch the game for nothing, and just stood here. So yeah, I can't remember who the opponents were. It was the turn of the millennium when we were still in the Football League. For some reason in my head now as I'm recording, I want to say it were against Brighton and Hove Albion. So yeah, I mean, we will have seen shots similar to this on video if you'd have watched some of the vlogs that Charlie did, or any football vloggers did actually for that day. They all seem to come in the away end. But then again, we can't complain because they got a great shot of Kevin Roberts opening the scoring at the South Stand end and the crowd in that end. So yeah, I know I'm going to be biased, but I really do think this ground is especially not unique per se, but it's certainly got a charm and a character to it. I mean, we've even just got the evergreen trees here. Stand needs a little bit of a polish and a wipe, but there's trees in the background. It's quite scenic. Actually, we've got the jungle over there where I'm sure if I went in and had a look, I'd find 100 footballs. Yeah. Let's try and take it all in. So there'd be the football posts that are erected on match day they take the posts down at the end of every match. If you stay long enough, actually, you'd be able to see Ozzy take them down. And he's usually on a Saturday replacing them with another set of posts for matches that take place here on a Sunday. So yeah, a bit of the east stand there. As I say, that'd just be the section where away supporters would go. I think the line with the club is if an away team brings, or is quoted as bringing more than 350, which would be able to sit in that bit, they'd also get this as well. How many partitions have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I mean, this can fit in a way 500. So yeah, this is the tour of the Shay. I hope you all enjoy, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.